Hello everyone and welcome back to I Am Tech News. In today's session, we will be taking a deep dive into AWS EBS, where we will cover configuring storage volumes, handling backups, and restoring your data. So let's get started. Amazon EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. It's a volume for an EC2 instance. As we discussed in earlier videos, EC2 instance is a virtual machine, and EBS volumes are used with these EC2 instances. However, they are not connected to the EC2 instance host computer. They are network attached volumes. They can remain independent of the lifecycle of an EC2 instance, indicating that even if an instance is terminated, the EBS volume can be retained and attached to another EC2 instance. Now let's dive into the step-by-step process of creating an EBS volume and attaching to an EC2 instance. We will also cover the key considerations and best practices to ensure optimal performance. Let's start by logging into the AWS Management Console. For this demo, I will be working in North Virginia region, but you can choose any region based on your preference. Now in the search bar, type EC2 and select it from the results. Once inside the EC2 dashboard, go to left navigation and click on Instances. And click Launch Instances. For the names and tags, I will name it as EBS Hands-on Demo. Next, under the Amazon Machine Images, choose Amazon Linux to AMI. For the instance type, select T2 Micro, which is under free tier. For now, we will proceed without a key pair and use the default network settings to keep things simple. Under Configure Storage, we define volumes for the EC2 instances. For now, let's focus on the EBS volumes. Volume 1, AMI root, typically refers to the root volume of the EC2 instance. This root volume is created from the AMI selected to launch the instance. It serves as a primary storage where the operating systems and essential system files are stored. EBS indicates that the storage type is Amazon Elastic Block Store. This is the device name assigned to the root volume within the EC2 instance, defining its path in the file system. Snapshot is used to create the root volume. The EBS volume is 8 GB by default, but can be adjusted as needed. The size varies depending upon the selected AMI. And the selected volume type is GP2, which is a general purpose SSD. And I have created a video on EBS volume types, which explain the differences in detail. I will include the link in the description, and I highly recommend watching it before continuing with this video. And the baseline IOPS for this volume is 100, with the potential to burst up to 3000 based on the usage patterns and available credits. By default, the delete on termination flag is set to S, meaning the EBS volume is deleted when the instance is terminated. You can change this setting to no if you want to retain the volume. The volume is not encrypted by default. However, you can enable the encryption by using Amazon Key Management Service, KMS. If the encryption is enabled, a KMS key must be selected, but for now, I'll keep it as unencrypted. Apart from root volume, you can also add data volumes. They also have similar options, but by default, the delete on termination flag is set to no for data volumes. You can choose yes or no for both root volumes and data volumes depending on your needs. These data volumes can be added either during the instance creation or after the instance is launched. For this demo, I'll show you how to create and attach an additional volume to an already running instance. So for now, I'll keep only the root volume by removing the data volume and click on Launch Instance. This is useful when you need to add more storage later without stopping your EC2 instance. Now click on View All Instances. Now that the instance is ready, let's create an EBS volume. In the left navigation, under Elastic Block Store, click on Volumes. And you will see a volume that has already been created. And this is the root volume of that instance. To confirm, select the volume And under details, you will see the instance tag as EBS hands-on demo. Now add a tag called root volume. Now on the top right, click on create volume. I'll go with the default volume type, but 100 GIB for the volume seems too high. To avoid unnecessary charges, I'll update it to 2 GIB. I'll keep the default settings for other options. Add a tag called test and click on create volume. Now you can see the data volume has been created and see the importance of using the tags. It is much easier to manage volumes with the tags. Now if I scroll right, under the volume state, you will notice the recently created data volume is in available state, whereas the root volume is in use state. This means the EBS volume is created but not yet attached. To attach the volume, select the volume, go to Actions, and click Attach Volume. Try selecting the instance, but instead of showing the instance, it says no matching running or stopped instances. However, when I go back to the instances, the instance is indeed in running state. If I read the message on the volume screen completely, it says no matching running or stopped instances in 1A. This means it is looking for an instance in availability zone 1A because the volume was created in that availability zone. However, the EC2 instance is created in 1D. This brings me to my first point that your EBS volume and the instance you are trying to attach must be in the same availability zone. I intentionally created the EBS volume in a different availability zone from the EC2 instance to show you the importance of availability zone when creating an EBS volume. Therefore, you cannot attach this volume to the EC2 instance. Now that we have already created an EBS volume in a different availability zone, a common question arises, like can we modify the availability zone of an existing EBS volume? No, you cannot change the availability zone of an EBS volume. To resolve this, you need to delete the volume and create a new one. So select the volume, go to Actions, click on Delete Volume and confirm it. Now click on Create Volume. This time, update the volume size to 2 GIB and ensure the availability zone is set to 1D, which matches the instance availability zone. Add a tag as a data volume and click on Create Volume. Now select the data volume, go to Actions and click on Attach Volume. This time, you should be able to select the particular EC2 instance. Choose a device name randomly and click Attach Volume. You will now see the volume state of a data volume is updated to in use. Now I have created an EBS volume with 2 GB of storage, which is fine for now. But what if my application requires more space in the future? So I can create a new volume, or I can also modify the existing volume size. So to modify the volume size, select the volume, go to Actions, and click Modify Volume. Here, you can modify both volume size and also the volume type. So you can modify the volume type and volume size. So currently, the volume type is GP3, but if I need higher performance, I can upgrade it to IO1 or IO2 later. Now let's try modifying the volume size. So I can increase it from 2 GIB to 3 GIB, but can I decrease it to 1 GIB? No. The EBS volume can only be increased in size. They cannot be reduced. So volume size can only be increased, but cannot be decreased. So I'll update it to 3 GIB, click modify, and confirm the changes. Now imagine you have two EC2 instances running in an availability zone 1A. Since we are using the North Virginia region, you can confirm the availability zones in the AWS EC2 dashboard. So just scroll down in the dashboard. You will see 6 availability zones listed, each with zone name and zone ID. So coming back, there are two EC2 instances in one availability zone. Additionally, a separate data volume, not root volume, okay? A data volume is attached to the first instance. But what if the second EC2 instance need to access the same EBS volume? So can we attach the same EBS volume to both the instances at the same time? The answer is no. EBS is a dedicated volume. By default, EBS volumes are dedicated to a single instance at a time. If another EC2 instance need to access, you must first detach it from the current instance before attaching to a new one. Except in the case of EBS multi-attach. So by default, EBS is a dedicated volume. But if you want to access an EBS volume from multiple instances, then you need to go for EBS multi-attach. With the EBS multi-attach, you can attach an EBS volume up to 16 EC2 instances. However, these instances must be built on Nitro systems. Nitro systems are a special type of AWS instance designed for high security, availability, and performance. And both the EBS volume and the EC2 instances must be in the same availability zone. If you're using Linux instances, then the EBS volume type must be IO1 or IO2. If you're using Windows instances, then the volume type must be IO2. So there are other considerations as well. However, in conclusion, by default, EBS can be attached to only one instance at a time. However, with EBS multi-attach, a volume can be attached to maximum of 16 instances, provided that certain considerations are followed. That's it for this part. In part 2, we will dive into EBS snapshots, how to create a snapshot and restore a volume from it. Stay tuned. Take care and happy learning.